Welcome to Season 2 of LeadSpeak, where we continue to empower the current and the next generation of SLP leaders in public education. Whether you're an aspiring leader, a seasoned pro, or somewhere in between, this season is packed with insight tailored just for you. I'm your co-host, Nathalie Lebrun.
And I'm Judy Rich. Welcome to Season 2 of LeadSpeak, school-based SLP podcast.
Welcome back, LeadSpeak community. It's Nathalie, and I'm here with Judy. Judy, we're so excited to kick off Season 2 of LeadSpeak.
Yes, we are. This season's theme is Lead Like You Mean It, and we have so much content in store for you. We want to share some key highlights with you today.
But before we dive in, let's quickly recap what LeadSpeak is all about to our new listeners. LeadSpeak was created out of the need for a community for current and aspiring SLP leaders in public schools. When I became the head of the department for a large public school here in Houston, I had no playbook on how to go from a campus-based SLP treating a caseload to leading a team of over 60 SLPs and assistants. Then I also realized that once I actually sat down in my chair, there were actually not a whole lot of resources dedicated to helping me grow and to build my skills on the job, where I need to continue to be both clinically really excellent, but also bring meaningful change to the people that I led.
You know, this podcast, LeadSpeak, is such a rare opportunity for us as SLP leaders in schools to think together about how to power up and how to energize our teams in what has become a very, very challenging landscape for doing speech-language pathology with children. And so it's just fun to meet new people, to talk about important topics, and to get to do that with you, Nathalie, because you're just a whole lot of fun to work with.
Oh, ditto, Judy. I like spending time with you. And I think what's been really, really cool is that we've been able to find people from all over the United States. So it's not just us Texas girls and our friends here, but really we've been talking to leaders all over the country, and we're seeing a lot of similar themes and challenges that folks who are serving in the public school arena are having to tackle and to kind of work through, with some gains and some setbacks along the way. So let's kind of briefly recap what we talked about in season 1 that will then kind of lead us to the conversation of what season 2 is all about. So in season 1, we started off, our very first episode was with Charlotte Green, and she had a great expression about being dead right. Which I thought was really meaningful and really kind of caught me off guard about maybe you have the correct answer, but sometimes it's just not the time or the place to be the one with the correct answer, right?
And another thing that Charlotte said that really caught my attention and my thoughts following our podcast with Charlotte was to be a leader who creates brave space rather than safe space. And that brave space idea just started percolating in us and leads us to some of what we're going to talk about in season 2.
Yeah. And then episode 2, we had Joanne Wishman, who's been an SLP in the state of Texas and serving beyond nationally. And she brought a lot of really interesting thoughts about the decision-making process for SLP leaders and the fact that you need a seat at the table in order to bring about meaningful change. And so for season 2, we were really thinking about what does that look like when you have a seat at the table, and what skills do you need to bring to that seat in order to be an impactful participant in that decision-making process?
Joanne's very relational in her leadership, and she said, be the leader your team needs. And so she's very responsive to her team members, their strengths, and their areas for growth, and is really masterful, it sounds to me like, about building teams. Her one word to describe leadership was journey. And I think that says a lot in terms of what we can bring forward into season 2. That leadership is not a one and done kind of thing. It's a journey, and we get better at it, and we mess up, and we get better, and we learn, and we grow, and model all of that
Mhm.
for our teams.
In episode 4, we had Bethany Whitten. And in her episode, she talked a lot about the importance of trust and accountability as a leader, not only to the people that you're trying to influence, but also to the people that you're trying to lead. And so that made me think a lot about like what kind of skills do we need as leaders in order to build that trust and that accountability, right? How can we demonstrate those skills through the way that we speak and the way that we communicate with others so that we can use our time and resources really, really effectively?
And remember, Natalie, you were going to make t-shirts from something that Bethany talked about. She talked about we can visit the problem zone, but we're not packing suitcases. We're not going to live in the problem zone. We're going to take action, which is her leadership word, to move through the problem zone into solutions and moving forward.
Well, you know, that t shirt might be your Christmas gift this year, Judy. So hang on to your hat.
I'm ready.
It's coming. It's coming. So then we had a double episode, right, with Cherry Wright, episodes 5 and 6. And Cherry talked a lot about how we have a really important role in leadership to bring about positive change and how SLPs are there to make a difference. Obviously, not only for the students that we directly serve, but the wider community itself. And she shared quite a bit about her experience serving in roles outside of a clinical role, right? She's has been given opportunities to serve both for volunteer work and also non-volunteer work in roles that aren't necessarily clinically directed, but at the end of the day have positive impact on our wider profession.
Cherry's word for leadership was teamwork, and we also honored Cherry with the Alliteration Award. She said, in terms of leadership attitudes, to use passion, patience, and persistence while putting plans and processes in place. And each one of those words is very meaningful and is very evident in terms of the legacy that Cherry is leaving for us.
And then our very last guest for the first season was Jessica Abel. And Jessica talked to us about real talk, right? How we must engage in honest and open conversations about what's really going on. Because if we don't, then those issues will never get addressed and will never get any better. She also talked a lot about how we can look at past examples of leadership that we have received and how we can learn and grow from them to make sure that we're always moving the ball forward.
Jessica said, "Hope lights the fire for meaningful change." And so, even when your leadership journey is rough and there are barriers that keep popping up and challenges that seem insurmountable, there's the hope that can light your fire for meaningful change. And the hope is within you in terms of being SLP leaders about the good that we do for children. Cherry talked about everything that she has put into place has always been about making a difference for children. And so, if we can keep that forefront in our minds, maybe we can keep that fire burning in us, that hope burning in us, that our contribution will lead to meaningful change. But Jessica's word about leadership brought us up short a little bit, didn't it, Natalie?
Yeah, totally.
Her word was elusive. Leadership is elusive. And that brought us to some interesting conversations with each other as we planned forward to season 2. And we used that as a way to shape what we're talking about in season 2. So is there any kind of conversation that we have, guests, experts that we can bring onto the podcast that can make leadership a little bit less elusive, a little bit more tangible, a little bit more really useful in terms of guiding our SLP teams in the work that we do?
Yeah, this makes me think about how I go about choosing professional development, right? Whether I go to professional development at the state level or nationally, or just through my computer at home, I am always on the lookout for professional development that's going to give me really like tangible and pragmatic things that I can do tomorrow in order to just get that 1% better, right? So this season, we're really focusing on intentional leadership and how to take actionable steps in our leadership, right? There are so many things impacting our ability as SLPs to fully and properly and wholeheartedly serve our students in public schools. There are even more things that control these situations that are beyond our direct influence. But there's things that we can do in order to really help our teams do their job properly and fully and ethically. So we're really excited to have rounded up a handful of really powerful and thought leading SLPs from around the country to talk about just
We're
that.
going to dive into topics like leadership through innovation, including the role of artificial intelligence in speech therapy and special education. We're going to talk about, with one of our guests, about building neuro-affirming spaces in schools for both students and staff. We're going to talk about navigating complex school systems and collaborating effectively with multidisciplinary
I
teams.
mean, we're going for the jugular, Judy. I think we're definitely going big, not going home this season. So I'm super excited. We'll also talk about really critical skills of building resilience, not only in your team but also in yourself. Advocacy for also yourself and your team, and how to balance compassion with accountability as a leader. You won't want to miss all of this. I think there's going to be some really great lessons that you can start using with your team right away. I think there's also going to be some lessons that perhaps resonate beyond the school setting and maybe into your life at home and your life outside of work too.
So, episode 1, we've got Chris Wenger, also known to his wider online following as Speech Dude. Chris is known for his funny and heartfelt social media posts capturing the day to day of SLPs in public schools. As a speechy influencer, Chris will share with us how leaders can think through hot topic issues of neuro-affirming care in schools, educational advocates in the IEP development process, and the ever-growing availability of artificial intelligence in our day-to-day workflows.
I'm so excited about Speech Dude. I've been a huge fan of his forever, and I might have been fangirling when he said yes to our email inviting him to join our podcast. And for those of you who follow us on Facebook, hats off to you, because most people who guessed who our first guest would be got it right. So well done to you.
Episode 2, we've invited Fong Palafox to spend some time with us. Fong is a rock star in the state of Texas as well as the SLP universe. She is a school-based SLP, author and advocate facilitating conversations about evidence-based, human-centered practices that are equally culturally responsive and sustainable. She has some exciting current research into reducing the overwhelm of SLPs in public schools, as well as talking to us about using storytelling as a way to advocate for change. And always, Fong has practical suggestions and insights for current and future leaders. So we're very honored to have Fong join us for episode 2.
Oh yeah, Fong is one of those SLPs that if I see she's giving a presentation, I will sign up and be in that audience every single time. So I know she'll bring lots of heart and lots of beautiful spirit to this conversation. That's a really difficult and heavy one. So yay for that.
Hey, so Natalie, tell us about our third guest.
So our third guest is Stephanie Michelle Sigwart. The first time I heard Stephanie talk about nonviolent communication, it just stopped me in its tracks. I had never heard this idea of non-violent communication. It made me think like, do I use violent communication? Like what is that and how do I stay away from that? Cuz that's sounds kind of scary. We knew that Michelle would be a really fabulous guest with us. She would bring a great perspective on how to really harness compassionate communication as a critical skill for any leader, especially in public schools where sometimes the level of compassion seems to go down as the academic year goes forward. Michelle is going to share with us some step by step ways to really critically and smartly apply this communication approach in scenarios that are happening in our districts right now. So I'm super excited to kind of feed her some scenarios that I've been hearing from our community that are happening right now and getting her expert brain on how she would tackle the communication aspect of each of those issues.
So that's just the start of season 2. We have big plans for rounding out the season 2 with conversations with 3 guests about artificial intelligence, both the broad strokes, a concept map for artificial intelligence and its influence on speech language pathology services in schools, as well as some very, very practical how-to steps to take for SLP leaders in terms of developing policy, when to run things by an attorney or a state level consultant if you're wondering if you're violating any student's privacy using artificial intelligence. There's so many different things to talk about when we're talking AI, the different types of AI and how we can use those types to make our jobs more efficient so we can end up putting students first and spending our time with students. So it should be an awesome, awesome season 2.
You better bring us some Starbucks, Judy, because I feel like our brains are going to be like working overtime to make all this awesome learning happen.
Okay, so we need your help to spread the word about season 2.
You're right, Judy. So if you find any kind of value in our episode, or you know somebody who could really benefit from listening to these conversations, we'd really appreciate it for you to share LeadSpeak with your colleagues, with your friends, hey, maybe even a relative. Whether you're a fellow SLP who's currently serving in a leadership role, or you're somebody who's aspiring to be, or even somebody just in public ed, and you are also affected by these topics, we welcome you, and we want to make sure that we're reaching as many people as possible. So we would love for your help in order to do that.
And word of mouth is powerful as well. Your recommendations help us grow and connect with more listeners like you. Don't forget, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram and share our episodes with your network.
And Judy, this December, you and me are heading to Seattle for the ASHA convention. We're going to be talking through 2 presentations, which I'm sweating about already because it'll be my first time doing that. But the good news is that if you come and find us at ASHA, we will have adorable buttons for the LeadSpeak podcast series. So come and find us in Seattle, and we'd be super happy to take a selfie with you and give you a button to put on your lanyard.
See you in Seattle.
Yeah. So, hey, we're really excited about this new season. We hope that you've had a really great summer. You're now back in the swing of things with the fall kind of rolling along. Get ready for some really inspiring conversations that will help you lead like you mean it in your school and wherever you're serving.
And make sure to subscribe to LeadSpeak wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode.